Okay. So, when you, Raja, we will explain it, but this whole thing is written in your Gita too. I will repeat many, many times this thing, okay? So, if you want to write it, you can write it or you can read it from the Gita. But let me tell you one more time the same thing. So, what happens is, as we go through our childhood, like a baby is born, right? A baby is born, then it, every year we have a one birthday. So we grow 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old, 4 year old, 5 year old, right? As we go from one year to another year, and then we become 80, 90, 100 year old, and then what happens? We die, right? So the dying part, and then what happens to our consciousness? It takes another body, right? And it starts all over again, right? So it comes with again birth and death. So what Krishna Bhagavan here is explaining is like how you go through your childhood, your youth, your old age. The form of body change is the extension of your changes that you go through, right? So he is not putting that at the death is that's it. It's not that's it, right? The rotation keep going further down as you change the form of yourself consciousness. So now we talk about that, hey, you do a good karma, you will come back as a human, but you do a bad karma, what happens? Become what, Karna? I know, donkey. So what happens is they go into animals. So again, so there is a change in form. It's not always that you will get a human birth, right? So if you do good things, if you have good, if you do good for others, then what happens is you again come as a human, right? And you keep doing good things more, and keep doing good things more, and you get better and better, right? So that part of your life is also an extension of what regularly goes. Don't make it, I know it's very dramatic. When somebody dies, it's dramatic, right? It's not the change like how a baby grows into 22 years or 60 or 80 years old, right? It's more dramatic than that, but it is the part of the process, right? It's nothing different than that, right? So that's what Krishna Bhagavan is explaining in this. So when we are little, we say, I am Sona, right? And then when my dad and mom gave me a name, and people started asking, who are you? What did I start saying? I'm Sona, right? When I'm old, I still say I'm Sona. When I am now also I say Sonal. So I kept on thinking that my existence is Sonal, right? Since I was born. So I keep on saying that I am Sonal. I introduce that I'm child, I'm young, I'm adult. So these changes, I kept on saying that I'm the same. But did my body stays the same? My mind stayed the same? My intellect stayed the same? Nothing. Everything changed, right? And everything gonna keep changing. But I still keep on saying that I am this, right? So what does that mean? One thing that did not change. What did not change?
Thought process.
My thought process. My no, my mind changed.
Thought process can change. No.
My thought changed. Yeah.
Wait.
My personality changed too, Raj. I keep growing, right? I keep growing. First I learned 2 plus 2 is 4. Now I know 2 times 2 is 4. Now I grow up like 2 is a square, 4 is a 4 square root is 2. So I can like keep growing with my mind and thought.
Your intellect.
My intellect, my soul didn't change.
Oh.
Yeah, intellect changed.
No, no.
Everything keeps changing.
Now you know what changed.
Yeah, your outlook changed so much, right? Your thought, what is mind? What did we define mind as? The thoughts, right? So that changed too, right? I was thinking like, oh my God, like, before reading Gita, everything worried me. Like, oh my God, I have to do this, I have to. After reading Gita, I understand a little more. So my thought process changed that, do your best. Then we have to keep doing the best things what we can do. But the mindset changes, right? So my mind did not stay the same. My body did not stay the same. My intellect did not stay the same. Still, I kept on saying, I am this person, right? So that means something in me did not change. That's why I keep doing it. I keep saying that. So my consciousness, my soul did not change. It's still giving me energy that I'm alive and doing these, experiencing all this world and all these things, right? That one thing did not change. Yes.
Even if you die and you turn into something else, if you do bad, then your consciousness still stays the same, but you don't remember who you were.
Good job. Yes, you don't. So now what? You are so right. So you know what happens? When the body gets wear and tear all your life, right? So now what happens is it becomes, you need an upgraded body now, right? At 100-year-old where you cannot walk, your body has done a lot. Now you are tired. So what happens is you need a change of body. You need an upgrade. So when iPhone 12 came, we need an upgrade, right, of our phone.
Not necessarily getting it, but
So the same thing, our body needs upgrade too, right? So that's how the soul goes to the next body. Now they need a little bit upgraded body. So let's see this scenario. You are talking to a friend and suddenly their phone dies, right? The battery is done. What happens? Do you hear your friend? No. What happened?
on the phone.
On the phone.
No.
If you are on video call, you cannot see him anymore because his phone died, right? So now, until he doesn't get the new upgraded one or change the charger or charge it, you will not be able to see it. In our scenario, what happens? The same thing happens. We die. The only difference is
People cry.
only difference is what happened is when we get the upgraded phone, we don't get all the same numbers back. So we cannot reach to the same people that we were talking to before. Right? It's like
When you get your new phone, but you forgot to back up your own phone.
yeah, there's no backup.
Live backup.
I think life backup has to be invented.
Right? All the data is transferred, but we don't remember anything. Right? So we cannot reach out to that friend. He already forgot about you, you forgot about him. But you got new friends. Right?
New parents, new family.
When new family, new friends, you got new friends and new family, you keep going. And you don't remember anybody, so what's this? There's no grief because you don't remember anybody anymore.
Well, they remember us.
They remember us, but we don't
Until
remember
he
anyone.
dies.
Until they die and they get
Then
reborn.
nobody remembers each
What if
other.
they get reborn with us? Like,
That
You
happens.
still,
People say that in people
but
say that
they
sometimes.
still don't know that you're that person and you
Right?
did.
Sometimes, they ask, what things goes with us, right? Did I tell you about this thing?
no.
Okay, so a lot of things, again, different views. It's not scientifically proven, right? Nothing is scientifically proven in this. So what is things goes with us? So they say that sometimes the subtle body that we talk about, mind and intellect, might stay with soul and go with it, right? So our mind and intellect goes with us. But sometimes in other people that they read Gita and translated it, they say that mind and intellect goes with us, but the tendency, what we got, that goes with us, that stays with us. So sometimes, if we are a good painter or, a kid is really good painter, never learned painting, but they know how to paint
From their past life.
from their past life because those tendencies carry over with them, right? So sometimes you say, if you have done PhD in neuroscience, you don't born with the PhD in neuroscience, so that doesn't go. But probably your intellect goes with you, so that there. But in Gita, it is mentioned that if you have done spiritual activities in this life, like you have read Gita and you have done certain kind of spirituality, when you die, it doesn't die. So when you get next birth, you don't start all over again. So let's say, just an example, okay, take it as an example, don't take it as. So you did till chapter 8 in Gita this life. Remaining 8 chapter you did not do it. So when you get born again, you don't start with chapter number 1 again. You start with chapter number 9. Because that 8 chapter will come with you. So all the spiritual activity that your soul does stays with you and you go to the next life. So the ultimate goal was to, when you go from birth to death, birth to death, birth to death, birth to death, and in the middle of birth to death, there is pleasure and suffering, right? So our ultimate goal is to go, not keep going birth through death cycle and get away with it and get liberation, right? That's what we talk about. So what happens is whenever you get born, you continue your spiritual journey. So somebody goes to, in their spiritual journey from 1 to 10, like if it is 100%, then 10% you get your spiritual journey this life, then 10% in next, 20, 30, 40, 50. So one time we all will get liberation. It just depends how many life everyone takes it, right? So we can take 5% in this life, or we can take 100% in one life. It doesn't, it matters on the person,
Quality, not quantity.
right?
Wait.
So yeah, you're right. Quality, not quantity. So a person can get liberated in one life, but a person can take hundreds life and still cannot liberate it because of how you do your processes, how you do your thought process on that, right? So that's what it explains in slok number 13. So again, how you take your, you get born, you go through childhood, you go through your youth, you go through your old age. Now remember, in this it doesn't say middle age, so there is no middle age in Gita, okay? So the youth stays till the old age comes. So whenever you guys tell your parents are in middle age, don't say that, they are still young. Okay, so remember that. So they are still young. So it goes from childhood to young to old age. So I think old age is 70 and above. Okay? So I'm young. All your parents are young.
You're
like
Yes, you're still young.
You're still young.
Yeah, everybody is young, right? Okay? So you understand that part?
Always young.
So you go through this, just extend a little more. Hey guys, one topic. So just extend it a little longer and say that the death is change of form. Right? You are getting a new body. That's the death. So as you go through this, you go through the death process too. Okay. We're gonna go to slok number 14.
Too slow.
Oh, one more thing, 14. But we will go one more thing. In this it says that where is it? 13, right? So it says dehantara prapti. Deha means your body, right? Dehantara means you get a different body. Antar means different, right? So dehantar prapti, how you go through old age, childhood and youth, you go through the same process, go through the change of the body. That's what he's saying here. The 13th.
14.
Oh, 13th, Raja, Dehantara. It's 13th, Dehantara Prapti, second line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That Deha means your body. Prapti. And then say Dhira. Dhirastha. The wise person. The Dhir means Dhir. In English, if we talk about it, it's a patient person. Patient. So why is Krishna Bhagavan is saying patient person here?
You have to be patient.
So in this, the Dhir,
Good job.
Dhir actually make us understand that it is just not the patient person, right? It's the strength. It's a wise person's strength. So he's talking about one quality of a wise person. Why is patience one big quality of a wise person? Why is the patience good? One of the quality of wise person is patience.
You have to be patient in achieving your goal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Achieving God. You have to be
And
patient
not die
achieving
early.
God.
Not die.
What is it?
You have to do your spiritual practice before you die.
Yeah. So, what are you saying, Raja? Yeah, so we have to be patient. So what is it? Patient is a strength. And if you look at it, so whenever, let's say, if something bad happens to you, right? You have to be patient to let it pass through it. Or, like, let's say your mom and dad said something to you, right? Rather than responding it right back, the strength is in being quiet, right?
Judging me so hard right now.
Is it? So what happens when to answer back rather than answering back? What you should do? Have patience and not do it, right? So answering back is not a strength. Reaction right then and there is not a strength, but patiently thinking over it and then responding is the patience. So patience is more strength than we think about it as a weakness, right? So that's why it says the dheer person actually knows the thing, the process that it goes through this life cycle, and then it doesn't end, it continues by changing the form, right? So you got that? Okay. Disha, you want to go for the slok 14?
Oh, sure.
Matra sparshastu konteya Shitoshna sukha dukkada Agamapayo nitya Tanstriti Shastra Bharata. Together. Matra sparshastu konteya Shitoshna sukha dukkada Agamapayino nityas Tasvisteshtha Bharata. So in this, Bhagwan continues and talk about. So we talk about sense organs many times, right? What are the 5 sense organs? Come on, fast.
Taste,
Taste.
eyesight, hearing, smell, eyesight, touch,
Eyesight.
eyesight, ears,
Tears.
Hearing,
tongue, nose, and
nose, and neck.
That's
Hear, see,
Okay, got it.
touch, and tongue.
Tongue. Yes, tongue.
Okay, got it. Come on, one shot again. You
And
know,
smell.
you know sense organs, right, Karna?
yeah, sensitive organ.
Good job. So those 5 sense organs, right? We talk about that. Now here he's talking about when the sense organ comes in contact of the object. So eye comes in the contact of sight, right?
TV.
Ear comes in contact of sound. Smell.
Comes in car.
Taste.
Touch.
So all these objects that we come in contact of results in giving heat and cold. We feel heat and cold. We feel bitter and pleasure and sorrow, right? So whenever we come in contact, all these senses come in contact of the object, we start feeling either heat and cold or sorrow and pleasure, right? These all things come and go. So all these pleasure and sorrow, heat and cold come and goes. They are temporary. So that's what Krishna Bhagavan is saying to Arjun. Here he talks to Arjun, address him twice. He says Kaunteya, that means Arjun too, son of Kunti. And then he says Bharata at the end, which is also Arjun. He said descendant of Bharat. So Bharata. So what he's saying here, that, so you know what happens is, Arjun will or I will say, okay God, I understand that we go through this life, we die, we get a new body, we get going on with the new body, and that I understand. But what about this life? When I get this 100-year of life, there are so much suffering and pleasure both in this life. What to do with that? How do I live the life here when I get that? I can understand for the bigger picture, right? What about the smaller picture of this one life that I get? What about that? Yes, Saisha. You were asking me something? No. No. Okay. Okay. What were you asking? A taste. I. Seeing, yeah. See, okay. So then Krishna Bhagavan says that when you come in contact, so you know, all our communication with outside world is through these senses, right? All the communication from outside in is through these senses. Now when these senses come in contact with the object, that's when the sorrow, pleasure, or heat and cold comes in life, right? So when we see a good movie, pleasure comes. When we see a bad thing, like we see somebody suffering, then what happens? The sorrow comes, right? When we smell good, flowery smell or a good perfume, pleasure comes. When we smell a bad thing, what happens? The sorrow comes, right? When we listen to a good music, what comes? Pleasure comes. When we listen to somebody yelling, what happens?
Die.
I don't want to hear, right?
We die.
Right? And then the same way, if we touch good things, we feel good. If we touch the bad things, we don't feel good. So all the sorrow and pleasure come through it. Now, when somebody is feeling pleasure, or the pleasure comes, do we complain about that?
No.
Oh, I have to put up with this pleasure. Oh, do we say that? How to put up with this pleasure? We never talk about when we have to put up with this pleasure. We always talk about how to put up with this sorrow, right? So we always talk about sorrow. So for pleasure, we are happy. We will not complain. But how to put up with this sorrow? God, tell me. So God in this says that when these are temporary things, so endure them. Hold it, handle it, hang on to it. So this is the answer from God saying, okay, these are temporary, hang on to it. You do it, you hold it, titiksha. He says on the last word, titiksha, bharata. Means, what does it say? It means that bear it. This is going to happen, right? So he did not give a big answer that what to do with the sorrow in this life. He just says, hold on to it, right? Bear it. It's going to come and go. So you should have it. So now, when we are sick and we have to go to the doctor and doctor gets the medicine, right? But after taking the medication, there will be some period of the time the pain will be still there, right? It's not the pain will go away, but we still have to hold that pain with us, right? We have to suffer that pain, but the medicine will work, right? So God is here saying, what? Bear it. Whatever sorrow or pleasure comes, bear it. The heat and cold, the pleasure and sorrow that comes, hold on to it, right? Now let's go. Let me see if I have anything to tell you in this other than this. Okay, let's go to slope 15. Slope number 15, 1-5. You ready? Yeah. Okay. You? Okay.
Yam hina vyatanyante te Purusham Purushar Sabha Samadukha sukham dhiram.
Deyam samrata.
Okay, you say it.
Somrtatvaya kalpate.
Together.
Yam hi nyasyate
Purusham Purushava.
Samadukha sukham dhiram. Somrtatvaya kalpate.
Okay, so here it says that you have pain and pleasure. Just know when the pleasure come or pain come, you should not feel any difference. Oh my God, isn't a big ask to do? Like when you are in pain, don't cry, and when you are in pleasure, don't laugh. That's what God is saying, right? So, right? They are enduring it. So what happens is when you are really getting 100 points in your class, right? You got a good assignment score, you got 100. Now, would you brag about it?
No.
To your friends?
bit.
Little bit? You're gonna brag about it, right?
No.
Do you brag about it that you are doing so well?
Only tell my parents. Yeah.
Okay, I really want to listen to this answer. Sanem, what are you gonna do?
What?
If you got a new game or you made a new game, are you gonna talk to that about your, I'm gonna feel really good about yourself?
Yeah, probably.
Right? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. But you know you have that you can do it for a little while, but you cannot keep doing it, right? I know, but is that pleasure, is that good or not good? Yeah, you got it, Alia. That's so nice. I know, so nice of you on that one. You made a good choice. So, pleasure is, you know, right now your pleasure is what? Talking?
The ability to sleep.
No, you're not just in this hour. What other pleasure? Playing, right? What else?
Being able to learn.
Doing whatever you want.
No, that's no. Don't say anything.
Winter break.
Huh?
Winter break.
What about winter break? It's over.
It ends on Wednesday.
Going to vacation.
So what is about winter break? Guys, let's talk one conversation. Hey guys,
Stop talking.
stop talking so we can cover more, right? So tell me what was about winter break that you had fun about.
Well, you don't have school.
You know,
Well, yeah.
but you have again, guys. Why don't you guys all start talking together? Don't talk.
Raise
with
your
each other.
hand. It's still
Yeah.
school.
So your pleasure. So Nishi, what was the pleasure? Being here with your friends and no school. Is that what the pleasure is? Right? Okay, that was your pleasure. That's fine. But would you be so happy with this pleasure?
Yes.
Right? Okay. Now what God is saying that watch out on this
You're
one,
about to get hit with sorrow.
right? So now let's talk about sorrow. What is the sorrow? What is the sorrow?
All makes sense now.
School is sorrow. Right?
Pain comes.
Learning something.
I like this happiness makes up.
So for long term, what is good for you?
A bit of 2 weeks.
For a long term, what is good for you?
To bear.
To bear it, right? Nishi, you are
I'm so smart.
so getting it. You are getting it. So this sorrow, you have to bear it. You have to learn it because for long term, what is good for you? Going to school, right? So now the bigger thing is what you have to remember, guys. Krish. Okay. Yeah, Raja. Yeah, but I'm not asking anybody to share that right now. Let's talk about sorrow and pleasure for 1 second, okay, guys? And I will listen to you after the class on this one. So what happens is, what God is saying, your sorrow and happiness will come, but you guys have to, what you have to do it, stay steadfast. That means not getting too excited when the pleasure comes, and not getting too sad when sorrow comes. So you have to keep balancing that. That's the way to live the life, right? So that's a big take that he will teach you how to do that. It's not just he's saying it and be done with it, but he will teach you how we can do that part, how we can steady fast ourselves between sorrow and pleasure. Because one big thing you remember, he's talking in this slok about the before this slok, he's talking about objects. There are objects, right? And that object gives us pleasure and sorrow. So our sorrow and pleasure is dependent on outside objects, right? Not our inside part. Not, the consciousness is not playing any role in this pleasure and sorrow. So our real self is not playing any role in pleasure and sorrow. What is have a role in
Outside
this
object.
outside object, and what? Our body and mind and intellect,
Internal
right?
object.
Which is not us.
Objects.
So the real
Internal thoughts.
I is not even involved in the sorrow and pleasure. The big I doesn't even play a role in sorrow and pleasure, right? What is it? Little I and the objects around the little I. That is giving you pleasure and sorrow. So if the body, mind and intellect is temporary, what are these objects? They are temporary too, right? They are temporary too. So then those objects providing you pleasure and sorrow is temporary also. So not all the pleasure will stay ever. They are temporary. Not all the pleasure or sorrow, any of them will stay forever. They are temporary too. Right? So you got that point?
Yeah.
Okay. So we can move on to the 16th slok.
Yep.
Yes, turn.
Oh yeah.
Come on. That's fine. 5 more minutes. We will keep on doing it. Which one? You want me to ask Krishna to read that slok? Okay, you read it. We will do it. That line, he will do it. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Karno beta, listen to her and then repeat it, okay? So Sia will lead it and then you will repeat it. Okay. Nasato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sata ubhayorapi dvashtantam
Ubhayorapi drushtontas Tvanayostattvadarshibi Tvanayostattvadarshibi Nashato vidyate bhavo na bhavo vidyate sata Ubhayorapi drushtontas Tvanayostattvadarshibi.
Okay. You know what happened? I'm going to tell you a quick story and we will finish this slok next time. So when Vyas Ved Vyas started writing Bhagavad Gita, right? He was the author of Bhagavad Gita. So when he started writing Bhagavad Gita, he actually appointed Ganesh Bhagwan to come and help him write. Right? So with his trunk, he wrote Bhagavad Gita, right? So he invited Ganeshji to come and write Bhagavad Gita. Ganeshji said, okay, I will write. Because of the elephant head, he has a very good brain, right? So he has a good intellect and good brain. So Ved Vyas invited him to write Bhagavad Gita. So he said, I'm going to recite it, you write it. So Ganeshji said, okay, I will write it, I will come and write it. But then he said, I have a condition. And Ved Vyas asked, hey, what is the condition? And he said, you have to keep reciting. I will not take a break. So don't stop reciting. As soon as you stop reciting, I'm going to stop writing. And I stop writing means I'm done. I'm not going to start again. So you have to keep reciting. So Ved Vyas was smart enough too. So he said, okay, I said, good for your condition. I will do what you say. I will keep reciting. But I have a condition too. So he said, what's your condition? So Ved Vyas said that I want you to write when you understand it. Right? So you have to keep understanding what you are writing. Don't write without you understanding it. So don't just write it. First you have to understand it, and then hey, let me finish it and I will tell you. So then he said, okay, fine. Ganeshji said, okay, I'm good and I'm good too. So Vyas started reciting and Ganeshji started writing. Right? So when Vyas has to take a breather, he gives some hard shlokas into it. Right? So what happened, this 16th slok is that slok. It looks very simple, but it's very hard to understand. So what he used to do it, he used to give him some kind of difficult slok, and then Ganeshji was like, what does that mean? And then he keep thinking. In the meantime, Ved Vyas would take a breather and say, okay, let me take a breath till Ganesh Bhagwan understand what it is. And then Ganesh Bhagwan was smart enough, so after a little while when he understand, he said, okay, I got it. He starts writing, and then Ved Vyas has to keep doing it. So this 16th slok is one of those kind of sloks where Ganeshji stopped and think about it, like what is he saying here? Like it's so simple, but why did he say such a simple thing here, such an obvious thing? He's saying an absolute obvious thing. Like, when we say, hey, always say truth. That's an obvious thing, right? So in this slok, Krishna Bhagavan said a very obvious thing, but it has a deeper meaning. It looks simple, but it has a deeper meaning. So Ganesh Bhagavan kept thinking, and then Ved Vyas got a break from reciting so that he can concentrate again back to the. So that's a little story about this one. Good? Okay, we're going to continue 16th slok from next time. So see, we will recite one more time. Okay, Raja? Is that okay? So 16 to 20th, you're going to do it? Okay. And then you're going to take the first 3 sloks also, Raja? Next time? Okay. Sounds good. Are you guys good? Any questions, Sunny? You were saying something.
I was just wondering, why is the person who's asking him for a task given the condition?
Why is he what?
Why is the person who's asking Ganesh to do
Hey,
a
we
task?
did not finish the prayer.
I was wondering, why is the person who's asking Ganesh to write it down, why is he asking for a condition when he's asking for like a favor?
He is asking for favor because when you recite, you cannot recite and write together. So he is asking him to help him write. Right, and
He's asking for the condition because imagine there's a whole Ved Vyas memorized all the shloks, right? Yeah. Basically, and he's basically saying it in shlok form.
in slok form.
Right? So, and then he just says this shlok out. So, imagine him having to read every single shlok of the Gita all together in one breath.
And sometimes these
It would be
stories we
super
don't know
hard.
how much fact into it, right? But it just from like somebody's forefather said, like grandfather said to the son said to the son said to, so it keeps coming in. So we don't know the fact. Sometimes these stories are just to listen to it and move on. Sometimes these stories are being made later on, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know what's fact. But it's just a funny story, so I said it's going to connect with this slok. Yes, yes.
Am I gonna repeat line 16?
But we can do it together. Okay? Okay. Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kausacharunamardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha